everyone, welcome to the show, My So-Called Fabulous. I'm Tiffany, and I'm back, y'all. Here we are, season 7, and I am going to talk to you about friends, philanthropy, acting, you name it. This woman is walking the red carpets, and let me tell you what else she's doing. She's wiping running noses. This is she, Sainty Nelsen. Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
Well, I am honored that you are here, and first of all, I just think you are fabulous. I mean, it's my favorite word.
Am I so-called fabulous?
And you are, no, you are fabulous.
No, I love it so much.
I have enjoyed watching you, meeting you, working with you on different boards and philanthropies in Fort Worth, and I love bringing information and solving problems with this podcast. That's why I started it, to learn from my mistakes as well as my success. And to bring you on, we have a problem to solve for sure, but to just show people how fun and exciting you can be and do, and you have this goal in your life, acting, and it's accomplished. You've done it, you know?
We're so sweet.
Well, thank you. But to show these young women and men that dreams can come true.
Oh my God,
right?
and completely fail and have it come back. And I always say, are we allowed to cuss?
Yes.
Okay, it's just such a shit show.
Yes.
It's the best kind of shit show that there is. And I giggle like right now. It is literally, if by the time this airs too, it's Twister outside.
Yeah.
And I had to, like a mom that I am, I had empty gas. So I literally went out in the wind and I was like, I had my hair curled and I looked somewhat decent, not with my lipstick. And now it's a hot mess express. But that is life.
That is life.
That is a so-called not so looking fabulous life.
Well, you look beautiful. And if you're on YouTube, you can see us on YouTube and follow along. But Sainty and I are going to talk about her accomplishments, friendships, philanthropies, and cancer, the C word. We've talked about that. But this woman, y'all, has 3 Emmy Awards, 1 Tony. I mean, the list goes on and on. Drama Desk Award, GLAAD Award, Drama League Award. You are amazing. Your accomplishments, you have to be so proud and at a very young age. And I always say the best job in the world, the luckiest job you can have is being a mama. And you are a mama of 2 babies, 4 and 2, right?
Yes, me and my Molly, Morgan, and Mick. But what's so interesting is I truly never wanted to get married and never wanted kids. So it's so weird to me now. Like my goal, if you would have listed the achievements, that would have been my goal. And I just didn't believe in marriage, which is so interesting because I have 2 parents that have been married forever. My grandparents have been married forever. But I was going to be a star on Broadway. Like right. I wanted to be an actress, live alone in my penthouse, and then I met this knucklehead skater boy that skated up into my life at 19. I was 21, and everything changed. Wow. It's like my whole life I just saw like flash. I always say my love to Eric was like when people first discover God and they're just like so invested in Christianity and learning about it and it's just like fully in. That's how I was with Eric. I was just obsessed because I just didn't think it existed. So now it's so crazy to me because I hear like interviews or something, they'll list our accomplishments and awards and I don't even think twice about them.
Wow.
Like, because it is so true. The most important is my 2 pumpkins and my husband and family. And it's just been the wildest journey. I just never in 1,000 years thought this would be my life.
How did you meet Eric?
Oh my goodness. So it's kind of wild. So I had a boyfriend of 5.5 years, never thought I'd get married, just was going to live my life. Moved to New York. My best friend, Ryan Nixon, was on the 9 to 5 national tour and playing Dolly Parton. And she was like, you need to meet a fellow blonde that's going to take you under her wing in New York City. So she introduces me to Tess Saltow, who was on The Wicked on Broadway at that time as a Glinda understudy. And so we're sitting around at this place called Blockheads, which is iconic in New York. It's this outdoor Mexican restaurant. And this skater boy skates up to give Tess keys, not knowing that this was her first cousin, Eric. And that was it.
What?
I into the other relationship that day. And my whole life like happened at that moment.
Oh my gosh.
And we became inseparable ever since. He was 19, I was 21. And
unbelievable.
That was it. I mean, it was like a whirlwind romance, like in the movies, but hectic and crazy and wild, and it was magic. And that was it. I mean, I truly knew we giggle because he was dating a girl at the time who actually I just met in person. She's one of the stars of The Great Gatsby on Broadway. And we're like obsessed with each other, love each other. We were dying laughing. And she was, I think, a senior in high school at the time because Eric was 19. And it was just so wild. Like we had known each other Eric and I have been married 10 and a half years now and been together like 15 years. So we've known each other like 15 years and we were obsessed with each other. I always giggled for Eric as I love all of his ex-girlfriends. He had great taste. Right. I'm like, I at least don't get jealous. I'm like, they wouldn't be able to handle him. Right. Now he's a mess. Like he was made for me.
Yeah. He's
he's my mess. So I don't even think twice about it. But it was just to answer your question. That's how we met.
That's how we met. Oh my! And he was acting. He's a theater person.
Yes.
Too.
So he did his first television show at 13, and then was on Broadway by 16. He was one of the leads on 13 the musical with Ariana Grande and Liz Gillies, who was also his girlfriend, who I actually worked with years later. We were on a television show together called Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll.
Oh, my God.
So it's a small world. So always be kind to people.
Yeah.
Because it always comes back.
Don't burn bridges.
Never burn bridges.
Never.
It's not worth it.
Oh, my gosh. Don't do that. Y'all, let me interrupt the show for just a minute to introduce you to one of my new favorite products. Following my breast explant surgery, I discovered ASEA and have been using Renew 28 ever since. Seriously, I'm not sure how I ever lived without this product. The fabulous gel has helped fluff my breasts post-surgery, reduce the crepiness on my arms, tighten and smooth my face, and help heal a nasty scar on my daughter's foot. I'm serious, it's so fabulous. This will continue to be a staple in my home for sure. You will just love the youthful appearance it provides and the hydrated, smooth way your skin will feel. I love all the ASEA products I've tried, and I'm sure you will too. Learn more and shop at shopasea.com/Tiffany Blackmon. And again, that's shopasea.com/Tiffany Blackmon, or click the link in the show notes. So back up, you're from Fort Worth, our city we're in right now. When did you know that you wanted to be in acting?
I knew at 3, which is so wild. My dad does insurance, but always secretly is a rock star. Like secretly would love to be a rock. Get the man in front of a microphone, he's done. Like Roxanne always comes out. And I just had this big personality, obviously. Yeah. And we were driving by Casa, and my parents were telling me it's a theater. And I was like, oh, I know, they want me to be in their show. And my mom was like, no. And she was like, looked it up and to audition. And I auditioned for my first musical. It was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, professional, like Actors Equity. And I was the youngest child that they had ever cast. I was 3, played an elf in Rudolph, and that was it.
You're hooked.
If you haven't noticed, there's a theme in my life. Like when I go for something, it's like full force.
Yeah.
It's like, I remember talking one time, I was living in LA, and I had like a life coach, and I was like, I'm too overwhelmed. It was all like during the election year of back in the day. And I was like, it's too much. And I don't like, it's just all overwhelming, consuming social media. And I just become obsessed with things. And she was like, no, you become overly focused.
Wow.
And I was like, yes, I love that word. I can become overly focused.
I love that.
With anything in my life.
You don't have to us anything.
Exactly. Instead of obsessed, it's just overly focused.
Over-focused. So then you went on and you were in high school. You went to we talk about the different private schools, ended up in high school. And you just carried on. You wanted to go to school and practice,
I think because my parents weren't in the industry. Yeah. So it just allowed me they knew nothing about it. So I had to find the research. I had to find the camps. I had to find what colleges were great. So I think my passion for it never died because I didn't have the pressure of a parent. So I moved to Ohio, went to one of the top 5 musical theater schools called Baldwin Wallace. And I still do master classes there to this day.
Good.
And then went to New York after there's this thing called a showcase, and you do 2 songs in front of all like the industry. And that was it. That just like
You're done.
jump started everything, which is crazy now because I think about I felt so late to the game. And I moved to New York at 17 years old. But it's still because of Eric's, like the kids that had been there for so long and worked in Broadway, that I was like, oh my goodness, like I am now playing catch up, it seems like.
Right.
Which is so weird. No, I'm sorry. I was 21 when I moved. I left Texas at 17. But even at 21, I feel like I was late.
Did you really? But you
So
went off
wild.
at 3, girl.
I know it is so, but it was, so it's such an interesting thing when I tell parents, because I'm like, now I wish I would have moved younger to like LA or New York, but then I don't feel like I got to live like I had a full life I got to live.
Right.
Like I was a cheerleader at Heights, and I really got to have that full experience, going to prom, going to homecomings. And I do think I think it's important too.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I'm like, now I don't think about it, and it's not like it affected me or didn't affect me. It's kind of interesting. You always have to follow the kids' personality.
Right.
To see what will really, because Eric, though, he looks back and he's like, I wish I would have gone to a real school. I wish I would have, or I had it. And I'm like, I wish I didn't have had, like, hadn't have had to do that.
Exactly. Because
So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
For sure. So your kiddos, do you want them to do this, or do you?
I would love it if they did it, and I would love it if they don't want to do it.
Right.
I think I'm so, I'm just so happy if they're happy.
Right.
And I think now we're seeing with children and the rates of depression and things, I am just so happy if they are happy.
Absolutely.
And I think as a parent, that's all we want. I would be ecstatic, but we're going to do, I think my dad always taught my brothers too, if we don't do anything as, you know, half-ass. So it's like, we're going to go big or go home, whatever that is. If you want to be a violinist, we're going to try to be the best violinist we can be. If you want to be a librarian, we're going to be as quiet can be. And so I think it's just anything.
Yes.
It will be harder for me not to go full force with everything.
Sure.
No matter what they want to be.
Do they have their little personality? Because for your daughter, they've already got their personalities, but
she is way more cautious. She has taught me such a lesson in patience.
Wow.
She's so introvert and kind. She has a loose tooth right now, and that's why we didn't sleep much last night. The bags under my eyes, because so nervous. She just said she wasn't ready for this yet. She wasn't. So to have a child like me, where I would have been like, whoa, I'm gonna be a big girl, and I'm gonna get a prize, and she is so not that. Like the fact that she'd be one of the first. She's she's an observer, then we'll dive in.
Wow.
So the fact that she's one of the first to like lose a tooth is very out of her comfort zone. But then she'll do a dance recital and like kill it and work it.
Right.
And it'll be very interesting to watch her journey. Where my McMahon, my 2-year-old, is, he's McMania. He's McMonster. He's a force. He's to be reckoned with.
He's a force.
So
is he going to be your football player?
Yes. And someone asked me, they were like, are you nervous about like him getting hurt? And I'm like, no, I'm nervous about him hurting someone because he's so freaking big and not meaning to.
Right.
So right now I'm more nervous about that. Like, I don't want to have to be the parent, the phone call being like, I'm so sorry, your child has a concussion because my son's ginormous head.
Right.
Like, I feel like that's more my life right now.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. It's with kids, it is such, as you know, a lesson in patience and observation, when to step in and when not to step in.
Sure. Oh.
And I'm like, my neighbor taught me, she has 4 kids and they're all teenagers. And she first said to me, she was like, you are in the physically hard stage of parenting.
Yes, you are.
And I'm in the mentally hard.
Yeah.
And I told her, she was like, how's everything? And I was like, oh, we are so good. Because at 2 and 4, I'm like, we're kind of sleeping. We're so fun. And she was like, oh, get ready.
Yeah.
Like, you think you have it great right now. And it's so true. It's like, you just, when you think you've conquered parenting, it's going to
hit you on the head.
Yes. It's like you're never, and they're going to blame me for something. That's what I've learned too. It's like, no matter how great of a job I do, they're going to blame me for something. And it's interesting because it's like it seems parents are more judgmental of other parenting
Yes.
when we're all just actually trying our best. And nobody is right and nobody is wrong.
No, we didn't get a manual.
No. And it's like everybody's like, if you eat this way or if you do, we don't know. We really don't. So we're all just trying our best.
Yeah. Just doing our best.
And
Don't judge.
No, it's not worth it because we really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is so interesting. So we're like, well, if you eat this certain way and this certain way and da-da-da-da-da, then these things won't happen to your kid, but we don't know. Where some people are like, I just want to live in their best life. And I think their mental importance of their life is more important to me than their physical. So we're all figuring it out.
Right. Oh, yeah. We're just navigating too.
Navigating. And we're all wrong.
So,
we're all right.
Oh, heavens.
And it's just very interesting. I feel like that's what I've learned too.
So with my daughter, my only child, Kennedy, I'm just telling you, just like yours, just so sweet. And then the junior high hits and, high school and I was a helicopter mom. I think I'm still a helicopter mom,
Totally.
and I'm proud of it. I mean, I have the T-shirt, and I'm proud of it. Daughter did fine,
Totally.
But when she was about a freshman through her senior year into her first year at TCU, I was the biggest dumbass that ever walked the face of the earth. I knew nothing.
Totally.
Sainty, I knew nothing. The eyes rolling in the back of her head. Mom, you don't know. Then she gets to TCU, and she's like, I'm so sorry. You really are smart.
No, but it's so true.
Right.
And we don't get it.
No.
That's what's so interesting because even my neighbor, she'll say all these terms, these TikTok terms. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And the pressure these children have now is a different stratosphere to have. I mean, I get stuff written about me online and I have to take a moment.
Sure.
And I'm a 35-year-old woman.
For sure.
So I can't imagine being a 15-year-old and having those hormones and that. It's just, it is a different ball game.
It is.
Which I'm hoping the pendulum always swings. I feel like we're very extreme in this other point when it comes to everybody's on social media. I wonder if it's going to go back in the middle.
Right.
Because with the COVID, it's like we all had to be. There was nothing else to do.
What are we going to do?
So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm navigating that every day.
Right.
What to share, what not to share, what's important to share.
Speaking of that, with your on social media presence, your actress, your career, both you and Eric, how do you navigate privacy for your children? How do you navigate that? I mean, it's
Totally
difficult.
It's such a wild. I always say it's what I would express on the podcast, things I would express to friends that I just met at a dinner. So unless I wouldn't share it to you for my children, for myself, I share everything.
Right.
Because I think it's so important where I was at with Mick mentally. And I was on another podcast and I expressed that I had to get on anxiety medication when Mick was sick and all these different things. I got so many phone calls. My mom got so many phone calls after that. And I was like, okay, that's my mission. That is like what I have to share. I have to be honest. Mm-hmm. And I'll take it or leave it. And if you don't like that. And then also I had someone that wasn't being very kind to me. And she was like, well, I saw that you were just on social media posting something and you were so happy. And I was like, because that was my job. Right. That's also my job to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's this. I feel like with my Instagram, you see a lot more of the job and more of a not cookie cutter, but it's just the silly me on all. You'll see my great days.
Yes.
Where I feel like on our podcast, The Glamour and Grit, you see more of our everyday.
Right.
So I think that's the difference is I'm not going to share my deepest feels on my Instagram stories. That's just not the way I built my Instagram. And I think because of what I do with kids shows and I keep my Instagram more of a professional platform with goofiness and all that, but it's much more, everyday things and not as much the grit of it all. That's more our podcast.
So The Glamour and Grit, your podcast, congratulations. You and your husband doing that. And I was going to talk to you later.
We're trying to follow in your footsteps.
Well, it's just, It's a lot of work, people. It is a
Holy
lot
cow.
of work. And
They have no idea.
no.
And to talk.
Ah,
Like they think, I mean, I'm a talker, but still, some days Eric and I are like, we'll not speak to each other the whole day. So we actually have things to talk about.
for sure. Yeah. I know. And see, I get in here with you before the show and guests, and I just start chatting and talking. I'm like, I know. My
Every
producer probably
producer
goes,
gets that. They're
okay,
like,
stop talking. Stop talking. What's that? You just did a podcast, you dumbass.
Yeah. Oh, they're like, why did you save Eric? Thank God I have him because he's like, Sainty, stop. Like, it's so hard for me not to just go into it.
So I think you told me at a social event or something that the reason you really started that podcast, other than podcasting is so big, for the two of you to actually share your life, to share your struggles, to share your success, and to share how you navigate parenting and being a couple and working together, right?
Totally. It was really when Eric was filming 1883 and our son was deathly ill. And we didn't know what was wrong. And I was, the amount of depression I was in. I remember calling my mom one day and being like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't know if I don't know if I want to take my own life. I just wanted to escape my life.
Right.
And I remember, and I had every tool, incredible parents, didn't have to worry financially at that moment because Eric was working on 1883. My husband had a job. I had everything privileged for me, and I got that. I was fully aware of that. That didn't matter. I still didn't want to be there. And I just remember being like, if I get out of this, I have to share. Because I do feel like a lot of people feel if you are in a place where you have supportive parents or a supportive husband, it doesn't matter. If you are in that mindset where you don't want to wake up the next day, it does not matter. And it gave me a whole new respect for single moms.
Yeah.
And oh my God.
No support.
The single parents, whether single dad, single mom, are saints, are truly a different stratosphere of human being. And parents that have no support system, whether friends, family. And I just remember telling people it was Eric's best time of his life and my worst time in my life. And if Eric had not gotten 1883, I don't even know where our marriage or if I would be, I don't know where we would be because the fact that he had an escape and could come home and see things, because we just didn't know what was wrong with our child.
Sure.
It was horrible.
There's nothing worse.
No, it's horrible. It is, and for a parent of sick children, oh my God. That's why I try to do so much philanthropy, because the people and the doctors that gave me strength during that time, it was actually my OB. It was midnight. Eric was shooting, and Mick had pyloric stenosis, and he was not discovered until 3.5 months, which they said he was probably 2 weeks away for having cardiac arrest. He was sick, done. And I remember I called my OBGYN, Dr. Bradford, and J. Max Slaughter, who an OBGYN, and she believed me. I was like, I don't think, and I definitely think it was a little postpartum, it was the baby blues, but it also was, she believed me.
Yes.
And I went to the hospital. My mom met me with Eric was shooting. He met us hours later, and he was in surgery. Right after we had done all the paperwork, he was in surgery. And then he was like, I had a extreme preemie. So this was, oh my God, he was 3.5 months old. Then we were this was January, February. Come July, it was my dad's birthday. And I remember I cried to my brother, being like, I can't live like this.
Right.
And Jake was like, it wasn't even a big deal, but I think it was my breaking point. The next day, I stopped drinking completely. I did intermediate fasting. I got on anxiety medication. And I was like, I am going to change my life, because if my son doesn't change, I need to change. And I need to grow up. I need to grow the F up. Because I am one privileged little princess. And if I can't handle this, that's ridiculous. I need to wake up and change my life.
Right.
And I lost like 60 pounds. This is like, I think a lot of people, this is before kind of the whole semaglutide movement and all. Right. I just changed my whole life.
Sure.
And come that fall, Mick was admitted into ICU. And Eric was doing the Yellowstone premiere. And I remember telling the nurse, I was like, call my husband if you don't think Mick's going to make it. And we'll get him on a flight home. But if not, I can do this. And my best friend, Shelby, who I'm having lunch with after this, we sat in the ICU for a week together. And it was some of the best, worst memories of my life. And I remember my dad coming in. My mom couldn't even come to the ICU. It did her. But I remember my dad just being like, he came to visit and it was like, you've got, like, I wouldn't have been able to make that. It was like God prepped me for this journey because I think that would have really done me in. That would, him being in the ICU and not knowing he had pneumonia and RSV, and they should have gone on the ventilator. They were ready for that. It just was bad. And I just remember it was like God had prepped me to be ready for that.
Right.
And it was just like, after that, I was like, I am giving back as much as I can. I want people to be so sick of seeing my name because I want to get my hands in every philanthropy and try to my very best to give back, because I took a whole year of where I was handicapped mentally. And I had every person stand behind me and support me that it's my turn to do that. And if I can have a voice for that, people could think that's for Eric and I, for our advantage and get our name. And I'm like, God, no, I could care less about. Truly, I was on a Zoom call with Cook Children, and I was like, if I could have the financial means to do just philanthropy, that would be my dream come true.
Right.
I have to work. I have to do other things, but that would be my dream come true, is to just give back much as I possibly could.
You know, and when you're saying all these things, and I think it's a switch. I honestly think there's a switch in your mind where we get down, and then we finally one day just go, enough.
I'm done.
You're done. And you did that. But Sainty, for me, for you, is the transparency to admit we had to take anxiety medication. I was depression or whatever, because there's so many women and men that don't hear that, and it's okay to feel that way. And for us to share is so important
oh my gosh!
Life is not all perfect.
No, and it's not fair. I just remember it's not fair to people. It's not fair to that mom whose husband's at work every day and has a great job, and that she feels like she doesn't have the right to feel that way because of the position where she's at.
Right.
That's also where I thought, because a sick child's a sick child. Depression's depression.
Sure.
There is no, oh gosh, what is the word that somebody said to me? And it's like your own idea of what's hard.
Right.
And I always said I'd love to do a brain scan to see everybody's brains of where they are at. If that's all they know, that everybody's life experience is their own life experience, their own journey. But looking at the brain, it's like each issue, is it showing the same level of trauma? Because I remember my mom saying, we were telling her we're coming out the podcast and we used the verbiage trauma. And she's like, well, you haven't gone through trauma. And I'm like, yes, but it's my version of trauma. That is my trauma with Mick. Yes, point. That is not trauma to somebody else, but that is what to me at the time was trauma.
Right. And it's okay.
And she was like, yes, but it's like, Mom, you can't tell me like that.
Define
that. Yeah, you can't. That's no one's version to be able to decide what is somebody else's version of that.
Right. Exactly. So Sainty, you decided to move beyond and to just, I think it is, you just wake up one day and go, enough.
I'm done.
Freaking enough. Then let's fast forward to when you discovered you had skin cancer, melanoma.
So wild.
How did you balance everything during that time?
Because of the headspace I was in. I remember my dad said, I'm so glad it happened to you and not anybody else in my family at the time. And I got a phone call when I was in New York. My mom had just gotten to the airport. And it's so not funny. We talk about this on our show. But I'm the type that goes through, we didn't know what stage it was. And we were in the airport at JFK, and I was trying to make a late flight because of Tiffany Derrick and Dustin Derrick got me in for the 8 a.m. appointment. And I'm in New York City. the night before, which once again, privilege. I get that is so grateful for that. And I remember telling my mom we were stuck in security and I was like, do you want me to pull the C card? She's like, that's not funny. And I was like, for me, it was the only kind of humor. I was like,
Sure.
I'm the type, I'm like, okay, here we go.
Right.
Like,
Buckle up.
I'm just going to take this for what it is. And we are going to ride this. And if I have to lose all my hair, I have to lose all my hair. If I have to do this, I'm going to have to do. I was just that type, that mentality. And it's easy for me to say now because I didn't have to do that.
Right.
So I don't know if my mind would have been very different. Like there was only 12 hours of me not knowing what stage it was. She just told me it was really bad. And so I was like, okay.
How did you find out? How did you just
got the phone call? And and the nurse at the time, she shouldn't have said a lot of not right things.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And didn't tell me what stage. She said it was really bad. She was like, there are 3 types and yours is really, really bad. Melanoma.
Great.
And I'm like, well, shit. Like I have a 2 and a 4-year-old. I've got to. So thank God Dustin Derrick was the one that actually went over to this other doctor's facility and got my paperwork and called us and was like, okay, it's stage 1. We're going to get in. We're going to get it out. And I just remember being like, I have to use this voice because I've never been in the sun a day in my life.
That is amazing.
I grew up in the theater. I wore one piece my whole life and it's in the middle of my back. I have never seen sun on that side. So I was like, I have to share this because if I have a melanoma,
yes, and
that's just
worshiping
like
sun.
No. And I'm like, I get so angry when everyone's like, well, then stay out of the sun. I was like, y'all, that wasn't it.
Okay. Now, how did you just go in for a regular checkup?
But I have been religious because we're actors and I am white as snow. I've gone in my whole life yearly since I was 18. And I remember this previous doctor, he was like, let's keep an eye on it. Which now with my new doctor, we don't keep an eye on things anymore.
No.
We dig it out.
No.
We're done.
Yes.
We're done keeping an eye out. And that was it. It was just, we kept an eye out. And went in and it was a melanoma. Which is the beauty with melanoma is it's very preventative if you catch it early. But I remember my mom was in front of her house and a sweet dad and his daughter who've reached out to me. And it's also like he was like, she has stage 4 melanoma and she saw my article and she's reached out. And just to have another person that doesn't seem like, oh, a sun worshiper. Oh, they're old. Because a lot of times it's like 60s and up we're seeing with melanoma. My dad was like, we saw her article in the paper and just wanted to know this is where we're at. And now they have it's some kind of new chemo it's like a aromatherapy or some kind of different therapy now that they're trying out for melanoma. But I'm just like the biggest activist. Yes. I've now had 3 friends that have basal cells that would have never seen it if they had them because I've been psychotic to my friends.
Sure.
And now even waitresses, if I see a weird looking mole, I'm like, hey, have you got that checked? Like just because I just don't want it to be. And my children now, sunscreen every day. And just now I'm more psychotic about it. I would have never have been. And Eric, oh my goodness, like he had a basal cell after I got caught. There's something going on in our world right now and I don't know if it's food or our air or something or something is happening. We are seeing an increase
young
people with, I feel like breast cancer is coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Where I kind of feel like it was like we had kind of seen like you weren't seeing as much people, and ovarian cancer in young people. I think they changed the age now to get your breast checked as 40 or 35 instead of 40. So we're seeing a change. And so the shift, and it's just, I know as myself having a 2 and 4-year-old, I considered my OBG having babies. Those were my appointments. I'm not going to go see other doctors because I'm in the freaking doctor's office getting checked up all the time.
Right.
And now I'm like, no, we're not seeing 30 to 40, well, 25 to 40, because you're having children. You're not putting yourself first
Mm-hmm.
to go get these yearly checkups.
Yes.
And now I'm like, get your yearly checkups.
And knowledge is power.
Oh,
Information is power, and that's what we have to do. That's our job.
It is our job. And now I feel like it's even more so a job for my children.
For sure.
That it's not fair to them if I don't put myself first. And that's why I'm doing all these philanthropies. And Molly Morgan's 4.5. And I'm always like, I showed her the picture. I just spoke at the American Heart Association. This little girl who I fell in love with. And there's a picture they sent me of me and her hugging. And I showed Molly Morgan. I was like, Molly Morgan, she had a very hurt heart.
Right.
And they fixed it. And mommy was helping with trying to get her to understand.
Yes.
Also, where I am doing these, I'm taking away from my children.
Right.
And it's figuring out that balance of and you're doing this out of the goodness. Well, I'm paying for baby. Like it's just all this.
Oh, it's a dance.
Juggling act of trying to figure out.
It's a dance.
And then Eric's away. I mean, he leaves tomorrow morning for 2 weeks to go shoot something.
Right.
So it's like you're just figuring it out. Everyone's trying to figure it out.
That's what we were talking about earlier. We're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, hey, I want to bring this up because my days of listening to cartoons are gone.
Oh my!
In animation, I'm just telling you.
Yes.
Remember those days all the time. But Gabby's Dollhouse on Netflix is adorable.
Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness! Tell me about that.
The #1 show on Netflix, which is bonkers. A children's show. I had booked it in LA in early 2019. So It's crazy to think where we have come with the show, and a gajillion seasons later, and we have a movie coming out in September 2025 that will be nationwide in theaters. So we just started. I've been going back and forth to LA recording that. It's crazy. It's so special. It's wild. We started recording. So you record, I think a lot of people don't know, we record by ourselves. And you don't know what the person, like the line in front of you, you're having a conversation. Hey, how are you? Da-da-da. We don't know what the person sounds like saying that. So you just have to do 3 takes of different kind of responses or different ways to do. It's a fascinating industry. So actually we just had a group record. And most of us met for the first time.
What?
And this is 5 years later. So it's so cool. And it's just I've been pregnant with both of my children during this journey. And I can always kind of tell, I was pregnant during that. Or I was not, just for like breath support. I can somewhat tell. Or I had a newborn. I could tell my voice is a little raspier because I'm sleep deprived. And it's my entire journey has been through Gabby's Dollhouse. So it's so special.
Okay, can you give us a little piece of Gabby's Dollhouse?
Of course.
Here she goes.
Hey guys, it's me, Pillow Cat. Oh, I sure hope you have a cat-tastic day. Bye. So it was what's wild is I think the first season, I don't know if Pillow Cat really had a gender. So I kind of did it this little boy meets little girl.
Wow.
Now it's a girl. But it was such an interesting, I wanted it to kind of be this, we don't really know. Just kind of sounds like little girl, little boy.
What was the one on your Instagram? Y'all have to go look at her Instagram. But what was the one you were drinking coffee? And I think it was like,
no surprise.
You were drinking coffee and you're saying, this is your life. And then you're in the booth doing a voiceover. What was that for?
Probably Minions.
Minions. Okay,
Yeah,
do it.
like,
Minions, y'all.
Like, so Eric always giggles, especially when we lived in LA and we didn't have children. I would record just downstairs and not in a studio. He's like, I never know what my life will be that day. I do think that's what keeps our marriage like new, because he's kind of a method actor. So when I met Eric, he was a skater boy. Then he was on Broadway as a goth. Then he was a goth. Then he did All My Children. He was a prep. Now I'm married to a cowboy. So I feel like I'm married to kind of a new person every couple of years.
That's not bad.
No, it's so nice. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I really giggled. There was one day he came down in a sweatsuit and I was like, yes, he is out of the cowboy phase for right now. Because we fully were cowboy culture, which I love. But you do, sometimes seeing a cowboy hat every day, I got like a little, I was like, okay, I need to see a beanie.
Yes.
I need to, change it up.
Yeah, exactly. We grew up in Fort Worth. So
I needed to change it up a little.
Cowboy chic. I've had enough.
No, I am fully immersed in cowboy chic. If you can't tell by the
look at her boots.
Cowboy girl boots.
So cute. So cute. So do you have a favorite, I'm calling this platform media, and is it because you've won 3 Emmys for producing, girl? I mean,
Right.
Is there a favorite? Is it voiceover work? Is it acting? Is it the producing?
I would probably say probably voiceover. I feel the most comfortable with voiceover because I love people aren't critiquing my look. I love that I don't have to do like the hard work of it. I mean, it's hard in the sense of,
for sure,
but I get to go in, the script's already written. I don't have to worry about call times. I don't have to worry if, it's raining and we have to cancel that shoot day because it's raining and our location's you don't have to worry about all the aspects of it.
Right.
And I love children. If I could have had the confidence to be like a Miss Rachel back in the day, that would be my dream come true, is to do children's shows forever and ever and to connect to kids. And I just feel like that's my demographic. That's where I feel most at home. Is like, I just feel like I understand a child's heart.
Yes.
And but my parents are really like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost, I always said, my parents are truly Mr. and Mrs. Claus. Their idea of imagination and play. And I just think that's my heart and soul. It's children. And I grew up in children's theater and just the laughter of a child and the innocence. And
you're an elf at 3.
Yes. They're amazing. Children are the most amazing, so innocent. If we could just take a page out of their book for everything in life.
Isn't it so great being a mama?
It's the best.
So I do want to ask you, because a lot of people ask this from across the world when I meet people. Fort Worth, our city, is really booming. I mean, I see the changes. So here we have 1883, Yellowstone. How do you see the upcoming years, Fort Worth, changing? And because you were Ohio, New York, LA, in the mecca of acting, and you're home now. You've moved home.
And it's now turned into the mecca.
So tell us what you were predicting.
I think, to be honest, so when I left Texas, we didn't have a toll road.
Right
here. So I'm like, it is really gone bonkers. I truly believe, I always say, I said this recently in an interview, that we are the biggest small town. And I think because we are so big and so much land, I don't think it will be as condensed as like LA, we're all in LA. As New York, you're all in New York City. I really think we're going to be able to spread it out so you don't feel like all of a sudden we went, the fact that we have 12 million people.
Yes.
Or what was it? We're the 12th biggest population. It doesn't seem like it.
Right.
So I do think if we're at the rate that we're at in support, I think we're going to be, I just think it's just going to keep getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the land outside of Fort Worth and Arlington and Dallas will be populated more than it is right now.
Right.
But I don't think we're going to get crammed.
No, I don't either.
I just think it's
so much space.
But it's so much booming. And I think Texans are a different breed of people and of kindness and giving. And I just think everybody wants to support everybody.
I love
it. And we want what's best for our town.
Yes.
And what's best for the people in our town and our children. And I really think that if we're at the rate that we're at and the leaders in our town and like the leaders in our schools and all, I think we'll be okay.
We will.
To be, and if not, we'll figure it out.
That's right.
Just like anything else.
And this reminds me of something. I always say this, and I'm going to talk about this on my solo, but we always figure it out. And I was listening to your challenges and my challenges I've had in my life. I always figure it out. It may not be the solution I really wanted.
Totally.
But we always figure things out, and things usually do get better. You know, they really do.
Oh, my gosh.
It might take us down, but
we all have seasons.
We do.
And it's sometimes you're in your season, sometimes it's not your season. And it's just, it's a ride.
Yes, it is a ride. Well, you and I both are so philanthropic, and I love that about you and I, because we know why after listening to this podcast. But Jewel Charity, we're both on Jewel. Bass Hall, Casa Manana, Cowgirl Museum, actually 2023, Cowgirl Museum Hall of Fame Award recipient. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Cook's Children, American Heart, Creole, The Net. We're going to The Net Thursday night with our friend Melissa Ice, putting on the pink and so much more. And again, you're doing this because of your heart. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much.
I mean,
I'm trying to follow. It was Stacey McDavid called me and she just said, she was like, I feel like your generation isn't giving back. And I do believe it's because of a lot of my friends are the breadwinners. The girls, the women are working moms. And so it's hard to also do. I have a luxury in my career where it's, in a sense, like a nurse, like where I'll go to LA for 12 hours and come back.
Sure.
And so I had the luxury of being able to do daytime meetings so where I always said it, people don't also necessarily have the means to give right now. So I'm like, if you can help give your time, that's where I've really been working with Texas Health, who's one of the amazing sponsors of our podcast, just to figure out a way for young parents or anybody to be able to give back without having to financially give back or give too much of it. We're just trying to figure out that balance of being able to be philanthropic without feeling like it's a burden.
Right, a financial burden.
Yes, and that's hard too. Or time, like if you are a full-time working parent, well, you want to be with your kids when you're not with them.
Right.
So it's just figuring out that thing. A lot of our young men that helped us with putting on the pink, our table concierge, were boys from Country Day and boys from All Saints. So starting them at a younger age and just taking those 3 hours to give back. Necessarily just helping work one event instead of being on the board.
Sure.
You know, it's just we're trying to all figure out that the new normal when it comes to philanthropy, because that's the most important thing that there is to give back.
We have to.
Oh my goodness. And I've had amazing examples with you and my dad and Stacey McDavid and Kit Moncrief. I mean, everybody that I feel like in my life giving back. And right now our mayor, like Maddie Parker, she can do it. I can do it. Right. I mean, it's just, she's all over doing amazing things and has young children. So we're just all figuring it out.
Figuring it out. And we're all
that should be the name of this podcast. We're figuring out the so-called fabulous life.
We're just figuring it out. Well, you are just a breath of fresh air. I mean, since I met you and Neiman Marcus, the cafe that we love.
Oh my gosh.
About 3 years ago.
And just grateful for you, and you're an amazing, you're the light.
Thank you.
That you give people like me a reason to want to learn more and dive more into our whole community. So I'm so grateful for you.
Well, bless you, sweet girl.
It's so weird not doing like the end out. I always feel like I should be like, and you can find us on Spotify.
You do? Okay. She's going to turn into that because we're going to ask her now, Sainty, how can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Sainty Nelsen, at Glamour and Grit. And our podcast is on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and dibbling into TikTok world at Sainty Nelsen. I still haven't figured out the TikTok ball game, but I'm there. But you can find the same things on Instagram.
Right. Well, all of this is going to be in the show notes, and thank you so much. I just love you, adore you, and everyone. You're going to see this on YouTube, a little bit on TikTok, a little bit of everything over here at My So-Called Fabulous. But you know what I say to you every single week, and I hope that you live this. Keep being fabulous.